Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the Black Breast Cancer Survivorship Stories and Strategies panel this evening. I'm Onisha Shorter, and I'm the Community Product Manager for the Now Included platform powered by Acclimate. As a fellow breast cancer survivor, I know firsthand how important community is in sharing my personal story. And so this evening, I'll be joined by three other thrivers who are here to share their stories and also survivorship strategies. Let's get started. I'll let each of the panelists introduce themselves, and then throughout the evening, you'll get a chance to know them better. We'll start with Alicia Harris. Alicia, thank you so much for being here today. And you shared your story with our Now Included community before. And so for that, we want to thank you. But let's dive deeper. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for having me. I am Alicia Harris, and I am a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed while I was pregnant. I was almost about 3 to 4 months pregnant when I found out. And it was devastating for me and my husband. We had just got married a few months, probably like 4 to 5 months before that happening. And hearing that news with this being my first child and me having a child after so many years, both my kids were almost grown. And it was just devastating to have to, try to figure out how to survive, not just for me, but for two, for me and my unborn child.
Well, we're so glad you're
So
here.
because of that, oh, thank you. So because of that, I started Journey for Two, and it's an organization that helps out other mothers that are battling cancer because of the lack of resources and support that I had during the time. I realized that this was something that was definitely needed.
Well, thank you. And I'm sure that there are tons of mothers out there that are going to be inspired by your story. Thank you for joining us. We're also joined this evening by Dr. Nia Bailey. Nia, thank you for joining us this evening. And with your busy schedule as a radiation therapist and CEO of your own nonprofit, I'm sure that you had other things that you could have been doing. And so we really appreciate you being here. Tell us a little bit more about the Bird Foundation.
Thank you so much for having me. And no, I didn't have anything else more important. I had this to do. This is very important to be with all you lovely ladies. So my name is Nia Bailey. I'm a radiation therapist. I've been a radiation therapist for almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years next year. And yes, I am the president of Bird Cancer Education and Advocacy Foundation. And we call ourselves the connectors. What we do is connect patients, providers, and the community to resources to prevent, treat, survive cancer, and everything in between, including counseling, integrative therapies, holistic treatments, and everything, because we believe that it is very vital so that patients focus on the cancer and nothing else. And we also partner with phenomenal organizations just like Journey for Two to get the information out there, because it's important that we save our lives and that we really reach out to every woman, but in particular, Black and brown women.
Thanks, Nia. And I look forward to hearing about some of the wonderful work that you're doing at the Bird Foundation. And last but certainly not least, we're joined by our own Jonice Thompson. Thank you for being here, Jonice. I know you've been with Now Included since the very beginning, and you're no stranger to community and engagement. And so we want to thank you for your time this evening. Please tell us a little bit about your personal story. Jonice, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. I'm off mute now, but good evening, everyone. Again, I am Jonice Thompson. I live, work, and play in Birmingham, Alabama. I have done work anywhere from the Black Belt of Alabama to the Mississippi Delta, to the UK. And all of that work have involved trying to find ways to help save lives. And even at my age today, I'm delighted to be here to continue to talk about the importance of health, advocacy, and especially for women of color. So I'm anxious tonight to really join you all in all of us trying to help move the needle, because I can tell you that health disparities and gaps still exist. After my 40 plus years in this work, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2007, and I can tell you that even being in the healthcare environment out there working, talking to women about breast cancer, that it was like I knew nothing. So I'm here tonight to tell my story. It's my personal story, but I think that if we tell our stories, we can move the needles. And I was diagnosed a second time in 2023. So I hope tonight that I can impart something with you all that would help you not only improve your own health, but the health of future generations and other women around you.
Thank you, Jonice. I think that's a great segue. So you've heard from three women, all thrivers, all have their own personal survivorship stories with breast cancer. So let's jump in. I'd love to hear, again, given your respective journeys and spaces that you operate in as breast cancer survivors, as providers. When we talk about survivorship strategies, tell me what that means to each of you. Let's start with you. Let's start with you, Nia.
When I think about survivorship strategies, I think about the patients who don't go back to how they were before, because I don't think you can. And so what I think about is doing things that reduce your stress level. I think about incorporating integrative therapies like yoga, like Reiki, counseling, like getting into nature, mediation, meditation, ecotherapy. I think about all the ways that can lower your chance of recurrence. I think about trying to be your best self, but then also educating the community on how to lower your risk or how to advocate for yourself. I think that those are some of the best ways post treatment and how to survive through a very horrible disease.
I think those are some great points. I mean, definitely, I think the point you made about having a balanced, holistic approach, but also being your own advocate. Alicia, how did you or do you navigate, your journey as a survivor?
Well, for one, just like Nia said, I did a lot of changes in the way that I eat and just live life on a healthier level. And I also just try to live life to the fullest and enjoy it. Like, I always live it like it's my last day. So I try not to do anything that brings me stress, and just try to do things I try to eliminate anything that can stress me out, and just, live life to the fullest, but also just knowing and learning your own body and knowing when something is off, and just knowing to advocate for yourself and push other people to advocate for themselves as well. And I'm definitely on top of it and making sure that if I feel anything's off, or I just listen to my instincts right away, and I make an appointment and make sure that I keep up.
Alicia? We lost audio on Alicia. Alicia, can you repeat that last statement? We lost audio for about 30 seconds there.
Oh, okay. I said that I just kind of keep up with all my doctor's appointments, and make sure that I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to, and just keeping, in touch with my body and knowing if something's not right.
So I'm hearing a theme here about advocacy. And as an advocate in this field for a long time, Jonice, what strategies do you recommend for navigating a cancer journey?
I have lived through the times of change, but not much has really changed. Okay. So but what's changed is how we live, how we work, how we play. Now, in 2007, when I was diagnosed, like, believe it or not, a lot have changed since that time. And younger women are faced with quite a bit more. But for me, during that time, I had 3 sons. And my biggest issue there was that how do I tell them, and learning how to find balance. Okay. Now, through the years, I've learned some things since 2007 to 2024. And, I tell women now that stress is going, you can't, because if you got children, if you live, you will have issues. You will have problems. You will have good days. You will have bad days, but you must find balance in all of that. You must figure out how to deal with the stress. Do some things for yourself. But the most important thing is that you take care of yourself. You cannot take care of anyone else unless you take care of you. And we get so busy that we oftentimes do not take the time to take care of ourselves. And another big strategy that I know to use, just because I'm sitting beside somebody in church with the red bottom shoes on, I never fail to say, have you had your mammogram? Because, and they may even have a PhD, but I can tell you they can get so busy, or they can be a homemaker, but they can get so busy that they forget about self-care. So you must find balance in life. And finding that balance, however your supreme being may be, you put it in the center, and everything around you, you try to make it line up to that.
Janice, I think that's so important because I think, especially as women, we neglect our own care. We're often caregivers. We're often taking care of our families. You talked about that, like how difficult it was for you to sort of, break it to your family, because I'm sure they look to you, right? They look to you for support. They look to you, right, as the person to hold it all together. And so, Alicia, I'm going to come to you, and because, again, with that in mind, you were diagnosed when you were 4 months pregnant, right? So newly married. So I can't imagine. First of all, I can't imagine what that must have been like. But did you feel like, as a mother, like the weight of that? I mean, especially, because you're not only now concerned about your own health, but the health of your baby. And then you have a husband, right? So, take us back to that time. Like, what was top of mind for you?
Um, what was top of mind? It was a very difficult time to find out a diagnosis like that. It was not something that we expected. We were living the high life, like so excited about our new marriage, and um, that just really took us for a turn. And when I heard that, I just didn't even know, first of all, if the baby would be able to survive that, because I knew I had to do surgery. And then I didn't know what the treatment plan was. And then I started to see different doctors. And of course, one of the recommendations were, which I was told might be one, was a recommendation to have an abortion. And that was something that I, of course, did not want to do because the baby was so far along. And um, to each his own, whatever a woman has to do for their body. But I just believe that women should know their options and know their choices. And a lot of women just do not know that they have an option to keep the baby. They think that they either have to choose one or the other. And if some doctors now, they just, like a couple of the ones that I've talked to, they haven't dealt with that situation before. So they just thought that you would have to get abortion to have treatment. Luckily, I did some advocacy and I looked into it deeply, and I searched Facebook groups and I found other women that were pregnant to see what they have done. And I found a doctor in the area that someone had just seen that was pregnant prior to me, like a couple months ahead of me. And I just took her plan and took her doctor's recommendation, and we started on our treatment plan, which was to do surgery, which I was very scared about, doing open surgery while you're pregnant and the baby's not even fully developed. There was many risks to that. So when I woke up from that, I was scared to even wake up. I was like, is the baby okay? Is the baby still there? It was hard for my husband, and she survived that. Thanks to God. And then we had to move on to the second planned part of the treatment was recommendation to start chemo. And, they tell you do not drink alcohol, do not consume even Coca-Cola, and then they're recommending
Yeah.
you to do chemo while pregnant. So again, that is something that I didn't even know was possible myself. And a lot of people didn't either, and including doctors did not know. Some doctors didn't know that you can do that. This is why a lot of women were having abortions, then getting treatment, or waiting and choosing to not do the treatment, have their baby, and then start treatment. And then by then, the cancer has spread. So now there are moms that are losing their lives and not being able to be there for their babies and watch them grow. So there's a lot of turns in technology now. And from hearing my story and seeing what I have been through and that me and my daughter has survived has given a lot of women hope and has made actually a few women have reached out and said, if it wasn't from hearing your story, that I wouldn't have. I was almost about to have an abortion until I heard that this was possible. And you just definitely have to go out and find the right doctors that will give you the right treatment plan. And so that's why I started Journey for Two, because it was something that I noticed that definitely needed help. As a mom, you're pregnant, I already had went through morning sickness. For the first 3 months, I was throwing up so much that I had to have IV treatments every day. Then when I finally got through that, and I was like, thank goodness, I'm finally over this morning sickness. I went on a little baby moon, and the minute I got back from that, I went to the doctor and I found out we had breast cancer. So it was like I didn't get to enjoy my pregnancy. The whole time I was completely worried and, just trying to survive and hoping that my baby would survive this. And so we started chemo. Of course, you lose your hair, you gain weight. They want you to do all these additional drugs, which is steroids and all of this other stuff, And I advocated for myself. I said, if I'm doing chemo, I don't need to take steroids on top of that. I'm strong enough that I think I would be fine. So there were certain things that I, advocated for myself and said, I will do the things that will necessarily make sure that I can survive to be there for my baby. But there were certain things that I said, no, I'm not doing that, because you have to really look into it, because of course cancer is a moneymaker, and sometimes they will throw all these extra things at you that you just have to really, look into it and make sure that what is right for you and what is right for your family. And me and my husband made a decision, and we decided that chemo was a good option because we wanted to do all that we could do to survive, for me to survive, to be there to watch my kids grow. So, thankfully, we made the right decision, and we started chemo towards the last trimester, like recommended. And they said if we start at the baby would be fully developed, so it shouldn't harm her in any way. We just had to really watch her on a monthly basis. I had to have a sonogram, which honestly, when I found out that I had cancer, my OB dropped me because they said that I was too high
Oh,
risk.
damn.
Yeah, they said that I was too high risk and it wasn't something that they were, capable of taking care of. And my husband was like, well, if they're not, if they don't think they can handle it, then we'll find somebody that can.
Right.
And we literally searched our whole county. We went to every doctor's office. Nobody will accept me. I had to go on a Facebook group from a doctor's friends that I know for her to put up a post to say, hey, my friend needs help for a child. She's pregnant with cancer, and we had to actually get care and deliver outside of our county. So those are things that I've noticed too. I was like, this is ridiculous, and, partially, I, of course, thought that it could have something to do with, us being a minority as well, on top of all of the things that I've come with. Like, nobody was like in a rush to try to help me. I had to fend for myself on a lot of things and fight. So I know that's why I was like, I need to survive, get through this, and be able to start a nonprofit to help other women. And because it's a time, like, after the baby, I went through postpartum. I went through postpartum depression, going from, I was a model to being fat, bald-headed, and, just all those things in your mind, thinking like, okay, my husband thought he, just, does he even love me anymore? You just start to think all those things. You start to go through, regular people have postpartum, especially now having to do radiation while taking care of a new baby, and just not having the help and wanting to breastfeed, but you can't. Just all those things that were taken from me that I wish I could have done and been able to provide for my child. So I was like, this is just a critical time for moms that have new babies and, trying to navigate through motherhood, but having this on their plate. There's got to be something out there that is able to help them. And I searched and there was nothing. So
yeah, and it sounds like you also leaned into community, right? You reached out to a Facebook group, you reached out to your friends, and you really advocated for yourself. And it sounds like you experienced what a lot of Black women experience, which is there's so many disparities, right, in healthcare, and often it's difficult to find the right provider that's going to have the right care plan for you, and support your health goals. And so I do want to get Nia in on the conversation, because I know as a radiation therapist and a healthcare provider to Black women experience breast cancer, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of these kinds of challenges up close. And so what are some of the disparities that you see, in healthcare, when it comes to treating people like us? And what can we as, community members do to support one another, but also, like Alicia was saying, like, how do we advocate for ourselves, right? Especially when we're not getting the care that we feel like we deserve.
Absolutely. I think, like Alicia said, it's the time old tale that Black women or brown women can take a lot of pain, or our pain or our concerns are taken seriously. All the different type of atrocities that have been done to us. So what Alicia had done and what she continues to do is advocate for herself, to know that you have a voice. The other disparities I see is especially in the Black LGBTQIA+ community, where there's a bias of someone who their pronouns are they, them, or someone who is transitioning from female to male, and that biasy that is there. And unfortunately, a lot of people in that community have increased risk of cancer, in particular breast cancer, because of that type of bias. I see disparities also because of the hormones that the community takes. For example, if a male person who was born male but trying to transition to a female, those hormones increase your risk of breast cancer. So I see disparities in that. I see disparities in Black men, because Black men aren't told that they can get breast cancer. So when they go to their doctors, they don't get told to check their chest, to check their breast tissue. I see so many disparities in just being pushed aside because of just discrimination. I mean, you think of the other medical atrocities we've experienced in our community, Tuskegee experiment, Henrietta Lacks, and other medical atrocities. And what I see is, though, that us as Black women, we have powerful voices, and we are not just going to sit down if no one's going to listen to us. We'll go to another physician, we'll go to another office, we'll bring somebody with us to champion for ourselves. We also know that we know our bodies better than anyone. So we really take that upon ourselves to advocate for ourselves. But I think as a community, and I think Alicia also mentioned this as well, that we have to pour into ourselves. And even Miss Jonice has said this, it's okay to be selfish, right? Because as Black women, we always say we're going to take care of our children, our husbands, our mothers, our fathers. And by the time that we get to ourselves, we are so depleted. The only time we get to ourselves until we have to pay attention to ourselves. And sometimes it's then too late or the cancer has metastasized. So just knowing that it's very important to be selfish, because you can't pour into anyone else if you are not poured into. So while I have seen some disparities and that has happened, it's unfortunately probably always going to happen because of the world that we live in, and there is always going to be racism and biases. I think it's also important to our community to know that you have a voice, and to always advocate, like Alicia says, for yourself. And if no one's going to listen to you, keep searching, keep finding, go to your community, go to your village, because there is going to be somebody that eventually listens to you, and you pushing for yourself and advocating for yourself saves your life.
Nia, you also shared that you were a patient yourself and that you carry a cancer gene. What does that mean for your health going forward? And where do how did you find out that you had, a genetic marker for cancer?
Yeah, so a lot of people in my family actually have cancer, and my father in particular had prostate cancer. So I went to my doctor and said, hey, everybody in my family has cancer. So she put that information into what's called a risk assessment, and it came out that I have a greater than 20% chance of getting breast cancer. So from there, I talked to a genetic counselor. I got genetic testing, and it determined that I have a gene BCL6, which increases my risk for lymphoma. And I found that very empowering, because I now know that there's something that I can do to hopefully lower my chance of getting lymphoma. I get screened twice a year, not only for lymphoma, but also for breast cancer, because the fact that my father had prostate cancer, that increases my risk for breast cancer. So twice a year, I get a breast MRI and a 3D mammogram. And I also get blood work to see if something is going on with my breast, something going on with my body. So it's very empowering to know these things, because I can hopefully prevent or lower my chance. And by doing so, I do a couple of things. A woman by the name of Nicole Surratt came up with this acronym to lower your risk of getting breast cancer or cancer. And the acronym is Brenda. So B, breastfeed. You want to breastfeed for at least a year or so if you can. R, reduce your sugary and alcoholic intake. E, exercise for about 30 minutes a day. N, eat nutritious foods. D, do not smoke anything. Don't vape. And A, achieve a healthy body weight. So that's what I try to do, live by the acronym of Brenda to lower my risk of getting lymphoma or breast cancer. But genetic testing and knowing my family cancer history really saved my life.
I love that. I love that acronym. And so, Jonice, I want you to get in here too, because you talked about all the work that you've done as an advocate in the community for many, many years. You talked about your personal journey, but what are some of the tools, the community and the resources that you leaned into and that you recommend for others that kind of led you to where you are today?
Like I said, I'm at the age now where I've lived a long time. I've seen a lot. Things have changed. But I think the thing that I've seen out in the community now is knowledge is power. And if you can find out, and this is one of the reasons that I joined Acclinate, that now included, that's empowered by Acclinate, because it was something different. I had done this work in the community, boots on the ground. You all are just going out, coming back home from down in the Black Belt areas in the Mississippi Delta at 11 o'clock at night, trying to reach people, to educate them, because I know from personally, that may not be universally enjoyed, but knowledge is power. And if we can educate people, and one of the reasons I joined Now Included was because it was innovative. It was different than what I had been doing all of these years. I have set up the first recruitment and retention share facility. I had an appointment in the UAB Comprehensive Cancer Center. And you all, trying to reach people to get them over the fear of the unknown. And I can tell you that you don't know what you're going to wake up to no morning. You don't even know what you're going to lie down to. But it all depends. If you got the knowledge and you are empowered to handle whatever you wake up with, and then that's why I'm so excited about being on here tonight and hearing these younger women talk about their journeys. And because the one thing that you must know, that it can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter how tall, and I didn't have to give a lot of data when I'm out in the community, because people generally sometimes they don't want to hear that, oh, so many people, Black people died, there's so many. But I tell them that pick up the newspaper, look at the Saturday newspaper in most communities, especially the like the Birmingham News, and we'll say that, oh, they died an untimely death. But it was untimely because they lacked the education. And joining Now Included, it would give me an option, because you can't go boots on the ground. It's not cost effective. It's a lot of work, but we still must do it. But do you know how fast news travel if you are on the if you're doing technology, if you have Wi-Fi? So, but just think about those people in the Black Belt in some areas that do not have that. So I have worked diligently over the years, whether it's boots on the ground or whether I'm in Loving Acclimate, Now Included, for having the digital platform, telling your stories like you are telling tonight. That's the best education that I know that people in the community that look like us that can get, is by us telling our stories and getting on these platforms and allowing people to ask us questions. Because if you put it in a lay language, people tend to understand, and that you need to write it down before you go to the doctor, because you'll forget the questions that you asked. If one Dr. Alicia didn't do something, you need to know. Go to another, keep searching. But if you hear somebody else's story, you'll know where to go and find that information. So some of the strategies that, the things that I rely on now is getting information out. Knowledge, you all, is power. Right thinking precedes right doing. So you must, and Alicia, I'm just so proud of you, because when I look at you, you're just simply adorable. You are adorable. And then telling your story and going deep into the heart, because it involved more than you. It involved your husband. It involved those people who loved you, to bring a baby in. But telling that story, do you know how much that will benefit another female that didn't know that? And there's a lot of them out there that do not know. And I'm telling you, they got the red bottom shoes, they got the Louis Vuitton purses, and they don't know to do what you did. So I'm here to say that I am so proud of your journey, and that you decided to come on and tell it tonight, because you may not know it, but it will help save lives. And that's why I continue to do what I do. I don't always tell my story. I tell other people's story like you. I connect them with people like you, because I hear your story, and you can tell it better than I can ever tell it. So I hope I answered the question.
Well, I'm proud of all of you. And so thank you, Jonice. I'm proud of all of you for sharing your stories. And that really is what the Now Included community is all about: sharing our personal stories, supporting one another, and providing information and resources so that our community has an opportunity to get better health outcomes. And so at Now Included, we often talk about the importance of being represented in healthcare, be that clinical trials or research studies. And so we'll do a bit of a round robin. So maybe everyone could maybe have a 1-minute response to this question so we can hear from everyone. What are the implications when it comes to breast cancer and people like us? So, Nia, you obviously talked about, having first and second degree relatives in your family. And so that prompted you to have a conversation with your doctor, and you ended up getting tested. I was tested as well. And even though I didn't have a first or second relative that had breast cancer, and I tested negative for BRCA, there was something going on, right? And so I think it was, I can just continue to ask questions. I continue to press doctors, because it had to be a reason, right, why I was able to get sick. And even though it was frustrating, I know that by understanding my family health history and also sharing that information with my doctor unlocked access to a lot of tests and things like that, that gave me better options, right? Gave me treatment options and information that I needed. So we'll start with you, Nia, and then anyone else who has, an idea or has any experience with clinical trials and research or the importance of that. Feel free to respond.
Oh my gosh, they're super important. I mean, I know I talk to a lot of Black and brown people, and they don't want to hear about clinical trials because it's guinea pig. And like I mentioned, Tuskegee and Henrietta Lacks and all that. But I always say, well, when you have a headache, do you take a Tylenol? And they're like, yeah, I do. Or, well, that went through a clinical trial process, And if we don't show up in clinical trials, we'll never know how to treat particularly specifically what's in our body. That's why we need to be represented. There's research actually going on with Dr. Lisa Newman. She's a wonderful Black physician who's doing research in Africa to determine where this disease is coming from. But the problem is we typically call ourselves African Americans. We don't know where we come from specifically, what country we come from in the continent of Africa. So she's trying to get down to the blood level to determine, okay, if you're descendant of Ethiopian, Nigeria, you have an X% chance of getting cancer, particularly breast cancer. So let's enroll in clinical trials. Let's do certain things so that we know how to treat it. There's a particular breast cancer called triple negative breast cancer that in particular disproportionately affects Black and brown women. Triple negative breast cancer. I just had a friend who passed away on my birthday, August 26th. I had another friend who passed away 2 weeks ago, and she was 30 years old. This is ravaging our people. And so it's very important that we show up in clinical trials so we know how to treat our disease. And I'll just end on this. I always say in the 1980s, HIV/AIDS, just completely erupted our community and everybody's community. But now if you are diagnosed with the disease, you can live. And why is that? Because everybody, regardless of color, whatever, went through clinical trials to determine how to treat HIV/AIDS in the body. This is how we need cancer to be and breast cancer to be so that you can live and it can be a chronic disease. We need to show up in clinical trials and not be fearful of them.
Thanks, Nia. Anyone else?
Yes, I want to talk a little bit because I helped started one of the first recruitment and retention share facilities, and I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, and Birmingham, Alabama is only about an hour to 2 hour drive from Tuskegee. And I want to be real clear on the Tuskegee study. It had nothing to do with Tuskegee University. Okay, it was a government study. Now, just think that I used to go to the Black Belt of Alabama, which is where Tuskegee, down that line that goes across the mid of Alabama, is called the Black Belt, where most Black people live in that area. And they call it the Black Belt because of the dirt that's there. Okay, that. Now, I went into those areas, and this was back in 1999, maybe. Tell my age. But listen closely. We would send, go from UAB down to that Black Belt and have people come to a church or wherever and talk to them. And often I would, if I wasn't presenting, I would maybe holding somebody's baby because they had to bring the baby or whatever. So I had all types of jobs, okay? But the one thing that I always talked about was that if you go back and you look at some of the old medical textbooks, in there they would read that we know that this worked for certain groups of people, but we don't know if it works for people of color because we didn't have enough participating. I always brought up, like Nia, you said, that aspirin, that we take that aspirin, you all, based on a group of white males that participated in a study, and they came back and told everybody they needed to take that aspirin. Now, if back in 1999, I can go to the Black Belt of Alabama and have 60 to 70 people sitting in a room, you all, and they were like 54 years of age and up. Now, don't you know they remember the Tuskegee? So I would always bring up the Tuskegee study. I learned to do this before they brought it up to me. But can we allow, and this is what, listening on this call, can we allow the Tuskegee study to keep us from having healthier lives? We are so fortunate now that I have sent 3 sons to college, okay? And if I have a consent form put in front of me, or if I have something going down with my finances or something, I'm calling one of them that you better get in here and help me fix this, whatever it is, or help me to read this consent, okay? Now, when I left from down in the Black Belt in 1999 doing those trials, and I remember I was near Selma, Alabama, and you know the Edmund Pettus Bridge where they crossed during the Civil Rights Movement. Now, do you know how difficult it must have been for those people to cross that bridge? I thought about when I hit that bridge and I reflected back on those people that was in the Black Belt that I had just finished talking to that signed all those consents to participate in a trial, that it must have been just as hard for them to do it. But guess why they did it? Because they knew about the Tuskegee study, but they did it for future generations, for you all, people like you. They did it for, so we have a responsibility that we can no longer let fear drive us. That so, but the only way, Alicia, is and Manisha and Nia, is that you all continue to tell your story and continue to talk about research, continue to talk about the guinea pig, because the only way we're going to know if these medicines, I have great insurance, okay? My another friend of mine that's with the same age, that's not my color, they have great insurance. But there must be a reason that if we show up in an emergency room and they will ask me, what did I eat today if I'm complaining of chest pain? And they'll go do an EKG on the other person, okay? That don't, there is a reason, but we've got to teach doctors. We've got to train doctors too. And we are now, you all are now educated far more than my generation or the generation before me. So you can be message carriers. And if we're not, if we depend on somebody else to come in and do it for us, we will never close that health disparity gap. And that's why I don't mind telling you, I retired and I refired. I love Acclimate and Now Included, because the Now Included arm gives you an opportunity to it really put your hands on people. And you figure out how to do it on the digital platform, and you figure out how to be a message carrier, boots on the ground. And that's why I do what I do. So let nobody tell you that we don't need to be studied, okay? We need, because if there are any differences, we need to know what those differences. So if the greatest thing that anybody can do on this call is to find 20 people and tell them to join Now Included, to come on and see the stories that's being told, because if they hear it firsthand, they'll remember it.
You guys heard Jonice. If you are not a member of Now Included, she just said it. You need to be a part of this community, right? So if you want more of these real conversations, please join our community. So you heard it from Jonice, and she doesn't mess around. This lady is about her business. So I think we have 1 or 2 questions from the audience. So one of the questions is, and this is for you, Alicia. It says, it's awful that Alicia was turned away when looking for care. Can you share any resources that provide reliable, supportive care for Black women with breast cancer?
Or
I think yeah, we can hear you now.
Well, I am one of those right now that is providing care for Black women, especially mothers that are battling cancer. And so is Nia. So you have 2 people on this call that are helping women.
And can you share your organizations again, ladies?
Yes, it's Journey for Two. It's named after my daughter. So I named my daughter Journey because I said Journey so many times throughout my pregnancy. And so I named it Journey for Two, but it's spelled JOURNI, and then for FORTWO. And it's .org, or you can find me on Instagram.
And tell us a little bit, Alicia, about about this kind of support you provide?
Okay, so we support women emotionally, but also financially. Right now, we send care packages out to moms. Just whatever a mom is going through, whether she's in treatment or just out of treatment, I customize a package for them and I send them that. Little things that like a mother would need, as far as if they need help with daycare, if they need a house cleaning, those little things that you're like, yeah, the house is crazy because of all of the kids. I would help them, cover for a maid to come in and clean that up, send them groceries. Right now, we're just, helping out as with the little stuff, but hopefully in the future we'll get grants so we can be able to help out with the medical care and a lot of the bigger items. But we are here for support. Anytime they need someone to just speak with, um, they can speak with me personally, and we also have a few ambassadors that they can speak with, and advisors that have been going through the same thing, or they have either survived or is currently in this situation, so they just don't feel alone.
And Nia, why don't you share how they can get connected with you and the Bird Foundation, and just tell us a little bit about what your organization does?
Absolutely. So you can go on our website, birdcancerfoundation.org, and that's BYRD. You can also do that on social media as well. And we provide the resources for Black and Brown people, and all people, but in particular, Black and Brown people. So the resources that we provide is, we would say, okay, you need help in this particular area? Contact Journey for Two. You need help? Contact Touch, the Black Breast Cancer Alliance, Chrysalis Initiative. So we are really connected to these organizations because depending on what a patient needs, we know where to put them. So in particular for this question, we would direct you to Journey for Two because she provides the resources that you need to really focus on your health. So like Alicia said, if you need groceries, if you need cleaning, whatever it is that you need so you can just focus on living and saving your life, we would send you to Journey for Two.
Yeah, and I'm always sending everybody to her because she's the connector. So if I can't help you, she can definitely find somebody that can.
That's great, ladies. Another question: what is something you learned during or after your breast cancer journey that you wish you knew, that you wish you had known?
Jonice, do you want to?
Well, I think that for me, that my first one was that to go and find someone that's experienced it. And because I was very fortunate, a lady that didn't look like me, but she had gray hair, and I was much younger then too. And she walked in the room, and she was a volunteer, and she was a 16-year cancer survivor. And my boys was standing in the room when she walked in. And when she said she was 16 years cancer survivor, I could see the expression on my sons, all their faces, because what it did was it gave them hope. And when we tell our stories on here, it gives other people hope. When they see you,
Absolutely.
it's an awesome thing. And I think, the reason I'm still fighting, even at my age, and I not only fight for myself, I tell you to fight for yourself. I fight for my family, and I fight for my community. And the only reason I'm here is because of Now Included. So if you want to find me on Now Included, because that's where I am, fighting to make sure that all the lessons I've learned, if I can undergird younger people like yourself to help move and thrust you ahead to get out there and do the work that you need to do, then that's where you find me now, is at Now Included.
If I ever was in a fight, I would want Jonice on my team. I would
Right.
definitely want her.
And I want you all on my team.
All right. So last, did you have something? I'm sorry, Nia. Did you have something you wanted to add? Okay. So just one last question. And this is more like, just speak from your heart. What's your message to Black women that, are in various aspects of a cancer journey? They could be a pre-survivor, a survivor, or even just providers and advocates, right? They have a really difficult challenge. Um, there's somebody out there that needs hope, as Jonice said, someone who wants to hear about your story because they're afraid, they don't know what's ahead of them. Um, Speak to that lady. Speak to that woman. Alicia, let's start with you.
Okay. I would say to them just to be strong and know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and stay prayerful and also remain positive and just know that everything happens for a reason and you will definitely get through this and you would be on the other side. And trust your body and your instincts. If you feel like something is wrong, please advocate for yourself. And if you are going through cancer treatment or you're a survivor, like they said, share your story, share your testimony. I know some people are probably sick of me saying my story over and over, but every time I say it, it touches somebody, and you just never know who might get something or learn something from you. So share it over and over. And that's what I have to say.
Thanks, Alicia. Nia.
Um, I would have to say I'm speaking for the two friends that I mentioned that I lost, and they would say to advocate for yourself. Um, Part of their story was that they weren't being listened to.
Mm.
My friend in particular who just passed, she was diagnosed at the age of 26 years old with metastatic breast cancer. And she passed 2 weeks ago and she was 30. And just always, always advocate for yourself. You have a voice. It is important for you to get your voice heard. Have a community around you that is positive, that has your best interest. Um, Put yourself first. It's okay to be selfish. Um, and like Alicia said, fight, stay prayerful, and know that you're not just doing this for yourself, but you're doing it for future generations so that your children hopefully don't have to go through this, your grandchildren, and so forth. So I would just end on advocate for yourself.
Thank you, Nia. And Jonice, bring us home.
I'm going to try to bring us home because, at any age, you can make a difference. So, what I want to encourage everyone to do is to take control of your own health. But now, you can't do everything on your own. Working together, you can make a difference. So, and I want to leave you with the story of the geese. And I'm sure many of you have heard the story of the geese, that they fly in formation. So I'm encouraging the next generation to fly in formation in terms of women and Black health. Fly in formation. You always need a leader, okay? And if that leader should get tired, what happens with the geese? If the leader get tired, one will come from behind and give enough wind power to either take the control and lead them, or give enough wind power for them to keep going. So, but we as women, we must work together if we are going to win the battle. We must be like the geese. We must give each other. Like I tell people, I don't need any more certificates. I promise you I don't. I got boxes of them downstairs. I don't need any more awards. What I want to do is to be able to come beneath you, give you enough wind power that when I'm no longer in this area and can do this work, that I know that there's thousands of women out there that's still fighting for future generations. So be like the geese, fly in formation until you close that health disparity gap. Because if you're counting on someone else to do it, it's not going to happen. It's going to be us partnering with other people and taking control of our health first and finding a way, and it can be done, to close that health disparities gap.
Thank you so much. Ladies, I am so grateful for you spending your time with us this evening. This was deeply personal and extremely brave, and I am so incredibly grateful. And the Now Included community thanks you for sharing your stories. And so, shameless plug here. Um, you heard what Joni said. Community is it's a survival thing. We all need each other. And so Now Included is a place where you can find community, you can find education and resources, But more importantly, you can find support. You can hear more stories like these. And so we can continue these important conversations so it doesn't have to end today. There's all sorts of great content and events that you can take part in and just learn more. So, what we heard tonight is the most important thing is advocating for yourself. You know your body better than anyone else. And don't take a no for an answer. Just continue to seek out a provider who is willing to partner with you on your care journey, because it is your care journey. And if you're not getting the answers that you need, if you're not getting the support that you need, continue to look for a different provider. And always, I think, share your story. I think what we've heard today is that sharing your story is one of the ways that people get through their journeys, whether they're looking for inspiration, whether they're looking for answers, or if it's just that they don't want to feel alone. They want to hear from you. They want to hear from people who've walked the walk. And so all of these ladies have been where you are. They've been in some aspect of a journey. And so please do follow up with them, reach out to them, and try to take advantage of the support and services that they have to offer through their organizations. So thank you once again. So incredibly grateful. This was a wonderful conversation. And as a fellow thriver, just keep up the fight. You know, as Jonice said, there's still so much work to be done. And there's so much, you know, and we can't do it alone. You know, we need everybody in the community to come together and support every woman that's on a breast cancer journey. So thank you for being here this evening, and we hope that you will join us again in the future. This event is being recorded, and so you will have an opportunity to see it again. Again, join the Now Included community. Thank you so much, and have a great night.